We've got a major update. Epstein Prosecutor fired.
Keeping you informed and engaged, now more than ever. This is Sekulow. We want to hear from you. Share and post your comments or call 1-800-684-3110. And now your host, Logan Sekulow.
Welcome to Sekulow. Phone lines are open for you, 1-800-684-3110. And right now, look, I hate to see anyone lose their job. Well, it's unfortunate. We got a packed show, by the way. CeCe Hiles joining us. Rick Rennell's going to be joining us. Packed show. Stay tuned. Again, 1-800-684-3110 to have your voice heard. You may have seen the major update. What is it? And that is that the prosecutor for not only Jeffrey Epstein, but also for Diddy, has been fired by Department of Justice, a.k.a. through Pam Bondi's office. And this one may seem a bit familiar, Will, because what's the name of this attorney?
This is the second Comey that the Trump administration has fired, because the first was obviously James Comey as FBI director in the first term. This is James Comey's daughter, Maurene Comey, who is prosecutor for the Southern District of New York in Manhattan, in the U.S. Attorney's Office there. She obviously has worked on some of these high-profile cases you talked about. She was one of the prosecutors on the Epstein case, then on Ghislaine Maxwell's case, as well as the Diddy Combs case. And now we have no longer employed Comey at the DOJ. There hasn't been a specific reason given at this point, but with all the fallout with the Epstein documents, the Epstein list.
I mean, just the last few weeks of all that conversation.
There's a lot of speculation about the reasons, and we can talk about some of that in the next segment as well.
There hasn't been a specific reason of why she's let go. And look, I don't think anyone needs to be judged by, I guess you'd say, the sins of their father. So in that way, like, I don't know what she did, or just because she's a Comey doesn't mean that's how she deals with things. Doesn't mean that she's anything to do with her father. I have no idea. But of course, we got to give you the facts. And the facts are pretty interesting. Which you have high-profile member, high-profile attorney. She happens to be a Comey. She happens to be the child of James Comey. And of course, then you have on that she did Jeffrey Epstein. And of course, Sean Diddy Combs. So that is where we're at right now. Phone lines are open for you. We also have a huge update. You know, the ACLJ, we have been fighting in that situation where the Army was training specifically their teams at Fort Bragg that, look out for terrorist organizations, including, top terrorists like Operation Rescue, the National Right to Life. Maybe it's somebody like Will's parents driving around with that yellow pro-life license plate.
It's Choose Life.
Choose Life. But pro-life in general.
Right, yeah.
Pro-life in general. And we've been fighting hard on that, because we thought it was ridiculous and egregious, and now we actually have an answer. And we're going to get to that a little bit later in the show. We got an answer from Will, someone pretty high up.
That's right, and we're just going to tease that out. We are going to get to it, but it is a major development, something we've been fighting hard for. And really, I think a lot of you are going to be very pleased with this announcement as we bring that up a little bit later on.
Phone lines are open for you, 1-800-684-3110. We're not only fighting those big battles, about the fight against Planned Parenthood and the challenging of road judges, but we're also taking on numerous other cases defending faith and freedom nationwide and worldwide with our ECLJ and with our Jerusalem Center, the ACLJ Jerusalem. And right now we need your support more than ever. We're going to expand our efforts. That's what we want to do. If we've been 35 years of justice, let's have another 35. Have your gifts doubled today, because right now you go to ACLJ.org. ACLJ.org or /35 if you want to go directly to it. When you do that, make a donation of any kind to become an ACLJ champion. That's someone that gives on a monthly basis. Couple good things. When you give and become a monthly member, it gives us a great baseline. But also your first donation is doubled right now. So all donations made, whether you're selected to be a champion or not, it's effectively doubled. There's someone ready to match that donation. And that's incredible. Of course, it's tax deductible. You can cancel anytime. But have your gifts doubled today. We need the resources to not only continue these fights, but look for new ones, to be part of new topics that you care about. Let me know what some of those topics are. Give us a call or put them in the comments also. If you're watching on YouTube or Rumble or however you're watching the show right now, go to ACLJ.org. And hey, if you're watching right now and you're like, why are you, Logan? Why are you in sunglasses? These are prescription, and I got to go find my regular glasses. But right before the show, this is what happened. So you can explain that to your friends. I'm not going to keep saying it for those who are just listening. So, tell that when people say, Logan, why is he in sunglasses? Because I'd be blind. All right, we'll be right back.
The Justice Department has fired former FBI Director James Comey's daughter, who was a prosecutor on several high-profile cases, including Jeffrey Epstein and Sean Diddy Combs. Maurene Comey was an assistant U.S. attorney in the U.S. Southern District of New York. Recently, she was part of the team prosecuting Combs and led the sex trafficking case against Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell.
Whatever there is in the Epstein files, Maurene Comey knows. She brought the prosecution of Jeffrey Epstein in 2019 during the first Trump term, and it was just a month after that that Epstein hung himself in his cell room, and she was the one of the lead prosecutors on that case.
This firing also comes as the Trump administration investigates Maurene's father, James Comey, and former CIA Director John Brennan, accusing them of lying to Congress during the probe into Trump's alleged 2016 Russia ties.
The U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York cited Article 2 of the Constitution, which establishes the executive power of the president.
Why fire her now?
Can we talk about Maurene Comey for a second? Maurene Comey was for 10 years an extremely successful, dedicated, and ethical assistant U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York. She was a high-ranking person in that office. She became the head of the Public Integrity Unit. She supervised the case against Robert Menendez, the corrupt senator. She tried Ghislaine Maxwell. She tried P. Diddy. The idea that she got fired is a disgrace to the Justice Department. And Jay Clayton, supposedly the U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York, ought to resign himself in disgrace because he allowed this to go on.
Comey's daughter out, Pam Bondi, says, we don't need your services anymore.
Well, it's about time. She hasn't really done that good of a job. And at the end of the day, President Trump wants results from every part of the administration, including the Department of Justice.
Welcome back to Sekulow. Phone lines are open for you at 1-800-684-3110, 1-800-684-3110. Restating the facts here that the Justice Department has fired. That's right, another Comey. Another Comey? Don't play that well. That's right, this is Maurene Comey. This is, again, we don't even know why she got fired. She was a prosecutor, specifically on the Epstein case and specifically on the Diddy case. So you could say maybe she didn't do a good enough job of what happened with the Diddy trial and everything that went down. But we don't know the facts. We just know that this is another one of those kind of suspicious moments and another moment that keeps this story our number one story. And again, it's not something I want to talk about each and every day, is Jeffrey Epstein. I don't. Or James Comey, or any member of the Comey family. But somehow, some way, they keep doing this. They keep getting their spot in the top of the pops. Well, top of the news, you got always a Comey and always an Epstein.
Well, and when you look at this also, while we don't know a reason, we do know that there was some kind of maybe embarrassment, some egg on the government's face in the Diddy trial, where the big charges they went for, the RICO, the conspiracy charges, they didn't get the conviction. Now, once again, she is a senior trial attorney in the prosecutor's office. I don't know if she was the lead prosecutor, so haven't done enough research into that case specifically, whether or not, you can blame her exclusively for that, but it was her trial. But then she was a part of the Ghislaine Maxwell case, where they did get a conviction for 20 years for Ghislaine Maxwell. Obviously, we know that Jeffrey Epstein, his case never went to trial because he died while in the jail.
I'm glad you left that open-ended. Thank you.
Well, I just said he died. I didn't say how he died.
That's what I'm saying.
But those are kind of the facts. I don't know her other prosecution record, how many convictions she has, how good of an attorney she was. But the high-profile ones, it is interesting that she was a part of many of these, especially now. You also take that and look and say, okay, a lot of times people that have that expertise are assigned to those types of cases.
Yeah, I'm not here to besmirch anybody. She may be a very qualified attorney who is doing her best. Even if it's a Comey, that doesn't mean anything. Again, you shouldn't be judged by the fact that we don't care for your father, okay? We don't care for his seashell games. He's out there doing a shell game well, if you will.
A shell game, yes, with very specific shell patterns in ways.
James
that looked
Comey
at.
now works on Coney Island, you see, and he does a shell game. You can go and win some prizes if you can follow the ball.
Yeah, if you can pick the ball, you get a teddy bear. But in this case, his daughter's no longer employed with the DOJ. I had nothing else to say to that.
Which one is my daughter underneath his shells?
So she's
is it Diddy? Is it Epstein?
There.
We don't know which one's underneath here.
Now, this is also at the same time, we've learned this week, we had John Solomon on earlier this week about that grand conspiracy investigation that the FBI is doing and looking into members of the DOJ, the FBI, the intel community that played a part in tipping the scales in favor of one party or candidate over the other. We know she's no longer working there, but this wasn't necessarily criminal charges filed against her or any allegation that she did anything like that. So it is one of those things, too, that you talked about yesterday, Logan, where you said this is something that maybe could go away, but the administration keeps doing things to bring it right back up to the top.
Let's say she did a great job. Let's say she did a mediocre job. Either way, do you want another Epstein story in the news this week? Could you not have moved her to something else? Like, is there not another job for her? We couldn't have found her something else to do while we let the Epstein situation quiet down a bit. Instead, you have to fire the lead prosecutor, who, by the way, also happens to be James Comey, another prominent figure's daughter, who also happens to be leading the Diddy trials. I mean, this doesn't all check out and sound great. Again, more what feels like unenforced errors. Now, coming up in the next segment, we're not going to talk about unenforced errors. We're going to talk about some big moves from the ACLJ. Things have been going really well on our fight for life. And look, there are times where it can feel like that specific topic becomes a lost cause, especially when you had Roe versus Wade overturned. A lot of people kind of shut off the pro-life commentary and thought, okay, well, it's over now. We know that's not true. It went back to the states, and a lot of the states, even the ones that are more conservative-leaning, voted for pretty radical pro-abortion laws. It's unfortunate, but that's where we were. Okay, there was a lot of planning that did not get done. There was a lot of mistakes that were made, and now we're trying to help clean that up. One of which was the Army targeting specifically in one of their PowerPoint presentations, if you will, saying, "Hey, look out for terrorist organizations. Here's some you need to watch out for: the National Right to Life, Operation Rescue, people with that pro-life, choose life bumper sticker or license plate." And we weren't going to have that, and we've been fighting for it for years, and we finally have some pretty big responses from some high-level people. You're not going to miss that. Cece Howell's going to be joining us in the next segment. And then later on, we are going to be discussing even what's going on in New York a bit with Rick Grinnell, as we know that it has been another time where we have seen, in New York, meaning the mayoral race, that is heating up, as you see Mondami going at it and trying to kind of clean up some of his errors from before, as well as Andrew Cuomo saying, hey, I'm back. I'm going to be running as a third party, independent. And does this split the vote? What does it mean? And do we care really who the mayor of New York is? I would say yes, because New York, obviously, as they say, is the capital of the world. So much business is done in New York. So much is happening in New York. New York is sadly taken pretty turn. I saw yesterday that King's College had to officially close up shop in New York. Okay, that's a sad day. A legendary institution that had been there, and one of the few conservative institutions, Christian institutions, that had been there nearly 100 years, if not more, at that point. So, look, we got to always keep our eye on what's happening here. Phone lines are open for you at 1-800-684-3110, 1-800-684-3110. Let's take a quick call. Let's go to Gene in North Carolina, watching, by the way, on the Salem News Channel, which you can watch each and every day from noon to 1 p.m. Eastern Time, and we're live on Salem News Channel. You can get it for free on their app, or you can find it on Pluto, Samsung Plus, a lot of places you get what's called fast television, free TV. It's there. Gene, go ahead.
Sir, I believe this information has to come out, and people have to follow the money. We can talk about conspiracy theories all day long. It costs a lot of money to run an island, a lot. If it's in international waters, you got security concerns, medical issues, food delivery, a lot of money. Where did the money come from?
Well, I mean, Gene, that's actually been one of the big questions all along is how did he even make his money?
Yeah,
we refer to him
No man is an island.
Right. We remember that's about a boy that's in that as well.
Yes, but it's true.
Right.
Like, because not one person can be running an island.
Right.
That's what I think the
exactly.
metaphor was.
Oh,
there's a lot of people
specifically
around.
that metaphor is
They
about
were planting
Epstein Island.
the Jeffrey Epstein.
Got it.
Seed, yeah.
But Gene, that's been a big question the entire time when he was even charges were brought against him that he's this billionaire, but where did all that money come from? And that's where a lot of the rabbit trails about intelligence agencies and things of that nature come out of. Is just the fact of where did he make all this money, because it wasn't publicly reported. There wasn't all these reports. He was a financier, but it wasn't like he was running a hedge fund. So, I mean, that is a big question.
There are big questions that have never been answered about Jeffrey Epstein. It's whether they are relevant to today's story.
Well, and that's where now there's calls from some members of Congress, and even President Trump, with our friend John Solomon on Just the News, gave a little bit of a head nod saying maybe we do need a special prosecutor on this case to really look down and see what's going on. Because also when you think about the prosecution, if they're building a case against Jeffrey Epstein, which he was in jail, he was headed for trial for his crimes, his abuse of minors. That is what the focus of the investigation would have been, evidence against him. So if the prosecution, people like Maurene Comey, are only focused on their target, then they could have blinders on, not looking for outside things, all that stuff. So if you are wanting to get to the bottom of it and get answers, someone like a special prosecutor that would have a broad scope, able to go and look at a lot of different things, that would be a better way to do it, although we kind of aren't big fans of special prosecutors around here.
Well, there's two things happening. There's a speculation being fueled by you right now in the chat. I see so many comments coming in. Some aren't great. Some are people who have a lot of conspiracy theories. Some people are wondering why I'm wearing sunglasses. Those are the two reasons, the two main things that are coming in.
Those
And
are
you know
both
what?
conspiracy
They're
theories,
both mysteries. A lot of people said I look like Joe Cool, which I thought that's a reference. Man.
Snoopy?
I think Snoopy's alter ego.
Right.
So, I'm okay with that. I'm a big Schultz man myself. Scholes.
There's some other people that want you to wear a hat tomorrow.
Pork pie?
People are adding to your wardrobe as we go, and all you wanted to do was be able to see on air today.
Yeah,
so.
because these are prescription. Because if I took my glasses off, one eye would go that way, and I wouldn't be able to read the screens in front of me. 1-800-684-3110 to have your voice heard today. And look, these are big days. I know we're having some fun here, but we're talking about this news. Look, did I want to be talking about Jeffrey Epstein every day? No, I do not. But some reason, the FBI can't help but make it the number one story of the day. Okay, I would much rather have something else to talk about, and we're going to talk about that coming up because the ACLJ did have some big movements. Sometimes we got to stop and actually talk about the work we do here because it's so important. Cece Howell is going to be joining us, senior attorney here at the ACLJ. I know a lot of you tune in because you make this your daily watch because you want to know what's going on in the world. And then you know what? 1 p.m. Eastern, when we're done being live or whenever you listen to the show later on, you click it off and go, you know what? No more news for me today. No more media for me today. I got everything I needed from Logan, Will, and the team at Sekulow. And we can't do that without you. And I've said this before, I'll say it again. Those ads you hear on your local station or wherever it may be, those don't go to us, that goes to them. We are supported specifically by you, the ACLJ champion and the ACLJ donor, and right now, donations are doubled and matched. We'll be right back.
The turning point for religious liberty in this country was clearly the Mergens case involving Bible Club, because it set a different tone. It said no longer will expressions of faith be removed from the public school as if they were somehow subversive or against each other. And that changed the way people thought about religious practice and religious faith, not just in schools, but then across the board.
We wanted to have the Bible study meet in the school, and we thought it'd be no problem to start. But it turned into a problem when the principal said, no, you can't have it.
They may not meet under the present ruling of the Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit if that speech involves some sort of religious thought.
Bridget Mergens stood before the school board and asked that she be allowed to have a prayer club and a Bible club meet on her public high school campus. And they were denied that right, even with the equal access case. In 1989, when they made the request to the Supreme Court of the United States, and the Supreme Court said, yes, we're going to hear the Mergens case.
There was like a sealed door, which was keeping any practice of any expression of religious thought out of the schools. There's one ruling after another. We can cite one case after another.
On June 4th, 1990, the United States Supreme Court issued a landmark decision. 8 of the 9 Supreme Court justices ruled in favor of Mergens.
And everybody said, when we went and did that prayer and Bible club case, there was no way. That's what the world said, that you'd have prayer and Bible studies back in a public school. No way. And then the decision came out. And it wasn't just a little victory, it was 8 justices out of 9. What does that say? God answers the prayer of his people.
For 35 years, we've fought for life, religious liberty, and justice, both here and across the globe. You can help secure the next 35. Support our critical work at aclj.org.
Welcome back to Sekulow. Cece Heil, senior attorney here at the ACLJ, is joining us, and I always want to keep you updated on what's going on in the world of the ACLJ, because there's some big movements happening right now, especially for our fight for life. This is one that look, is never super fun to talk about on air. Okay, let's just be honest. We know that you got kids listening sometimes. It's summertime, and to talk about the real fight for life can be a little graphic, a little heady. That's not what this is, so don't worry. If you're listening with your kids, this is a different one, because what we're talking about here is specific organizations that were being targeted by the Army, and the Army was saying specifically when they were doing these presentations to their members, and we have a lot more information about that.
Right.
We can go through to kind of give you a backstory. They were saying, hey, look out for these groups, and they were labeling them terrorist organizations. And we're talking about ones that we've worked with for decades, whether that's Operation Rescue, National Right to Life, whether you're simply one of the families like Will's. I always go to your parents.
I appreciate it.
Because when I think of your mom, terrorist doesn't pop up.
Furthest thing from your mind is
a terrorist.
Right.
I mean, really. I mean, I can think of a lot of things. I mean, she's hardcore. Like, I wouldn't want to mess with her.
Right.
But I don't think she's a terrorist.
Exactly.
She's just a pastor's wife. You don't mess with the pastor's wife. But she's got... that plate did with Lisa, and like I where my kids go to school, I see them all the time.
Right.
You see the Choose Life, and I don't think a lot of times, I got to make sure I'm keeping an eye on these people.
Yeah.
These are usually the sweetest, kindest people. These are the volunteers of America a lot of times. So Cece, we said, look, this is too far. It's gone too far. It's been a couple of years as we've been going back and forth.
Yeah.
And we got some big movement, but I know you can give some backstory here.
I'll give some backstory, and it's interesting because it was actually July 10th that one of the soldiers posted on X a copy of the slide, and
July
I think
10th of last year, or
July
was it 2
10th
years
of
ago?
2024,
2024.
and we were actually, I think it was the 3 of us in this studio
Right, yeah.
that day that said, hey, this just got posted, we want to talk about it.
We gotta
It's
verify.
not been verified, but we wouldn't be shocked if it were true. But then of course it came out to be true. So that was July 24th or July 10th of 2024. We immediately sent off a letter to the Biden administration, to the Secretary of the Army under the Biden administration, saying, look, you cannot paint our client, Operation Rescue, a pro-life organization, and all these other pro-life people as terrorists. You cannot do that. And the response we got from the Biden administration...
Yeah, less than what you want. It wasn't nothing.
And not truthful,
Yeah.
a little bit misleading.
Of course.
And, they were saying, oh, this was just a mistake. It was just a mistake, and a slide that just got implemented. And when we found out more about that, it was not through FOIA. It was not a mistake, and they had actually been doing this since 2011. So this was not just this wasn't just, we just did it. It was just implemented. It was just a mistake. No, this had been going on for a long time, and we found all of that out through our FOIA. So,
Freedom of Information Act request.
That's
For people who don't
correct.
know, I try to always break those things down. You can submit to the government and say we need more information because this is yours as much as it is theirs because we are
That's right.
a free society. So you requested and said, hey, we need more information. A lot of times that takes a while. A lot of times it comes back very censored.
It does,
But
and it
this
did.
time, yes,
but we
but-
figured it out. Even
Yeah.
through the censoring, we figured it out.
And
that-
you again have an administration that's maybe a little bit more on your side
Yes.
here, and that's what we found out.
Yes, that's right. And so we didn't like what the Biden administration had said. We didn't think that it had corrected and asked for what we were asking for, that they corrected this training, that they apologized to our client, and that they fixed it, and they made sure that it was not going to do so going forward. Again, the response was basically, it was just a mistake. And so we sent off another letter to the Secretary of the Army and Secretary of Defense, now under the Trump administration. And I'll let you address that we actually got a response back from them, and it was
this
a good
was
response.
very recent.
Yes.
We just got this letter. The date on the letter is July 16th.
So yesterday.
So that is when it was written.
Yeah.
Our team just got it.
Yeah, and they just broke it on Fox News as well. We were able to work with our friends over at Fox to make sure our team and our publicist and our great team was able to get this word out there because it's a big moment.
And I want to read this for folks. I mean, it may take a little bit longer than normal, but it's important because this is from the Secretary of the Army. And this is the response.
Yeah, so Secretary of the Army.
Right.
That may not even be a position you think about, but that's a big deal. It's not.
It is.
He's responding on behalf not only of the Secretary of the Army, but also the Secretary of Defense.
Exactly.
He makes that clear. He's responding on behalf of both of them.
And this is addressed to Jordan Sekulow, Benjamin Cisney, and Christy Compagnone. 3 of our attorneys. Obviously, you've seen Christy and Ben on here as well as Jordan. But dear Mr. Sekulow, Mr. Cisney, and Ms. Compagnone, thank you for your April 24th, 2025 letter to the Secretary of Defense and to me regarding your client Operation Rescue. I am responding for both of us. So key point there. I was troubled to learn that an Army anti-terrorism and protection training conducted at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, had mischaracterized Operation Rescue, National Right to Life, and other pro-life groups as terrorist organizations. This mischaracterization was not only inaccurate, but also deeply inappropriate. Equally concerning was the previous administration's inadequate response to this serious incident. Its failure to provide full transparency or take responsibility for such a grievous error is wholly unacceptable. Let me be clear. The Army does not consider Operation Rescue, National Right to Life, and other pro-life groups to be terrorist organizations. Further, the Army does not view pro-life beliefs or state-issued pro-life license plates as indicators of terrorism. Additionally, the Army has reviewed all security mission training materials, including anti-terrorism and protection training across all Army commands, service component commands, and direct reporting units to ensure these trainings are factually accurate, comply with the law, and align with Army values. While I cannot undo the harm this training caused, I want to offer my sincerest apology to Operation Rescue, National Right to Life, and all pro-life groups negatively impacted by the false characterization of all pro-life organizations made by this training. Please be assured that I am firmly committed to rigorous oversight of all Army training materials to prevent such incidents from occurring in the future. Sincerely, Dan Driscoll, Secretary of the Army. That is a powerful letter.
It is very powerful. Cece, I guess the main question coming out of this when you read it, obviously this is somebody who's taking it very seriously.
Yes.
We want to make sure they do what they say they're going to do, though, as well. The ACLJ team, as much as we want to look at this and go, okay, kind of case closed,
right.
We also have to make sure that it's stuck to and actually happens. Because these organizations are so big, like the Army or whoever it is, like you said, that this could float around for 12 or 13 years before somebody said, this has gone too far.
Yeah, absolutely. I think probably we'll send maybe another FOIA following up to say,
let's
let's see that where you have implemented this. Let's see that you have sent out a letter across, your Army commands, making sure. Now he says it, and I'm going to trust that he's done that and going to do that. But we will follow up and make sure that it does happen because it was very egregious. It wormed its way in, and it had been there, like we found from our FOIA request, since 2011.
Yeah,
so we're going to make sure that it's out, and it's really out.
Phone lines are open for you. We have a second half hour coming up. And look, I think this is very important. As we talk about all different kinds of topics here, the news, what's going on, you know your ACLJ team is out there fighting for you and fighting for your beliefs, whether that's in the courtroom, whether that's situations like this in the Army, or whether it could be any sort of things, but also in the media. We're here. We're creating new content for you each and every day. A brand new show that you could watch. A lot of you watch, I know, for your news here. I know a lot of you watch for your media here. And you know what we do it? We do it without a paywall. We're on a bunch of outlets. We're trying to get to be as available as possible. So whether you're on terrestrial radio, Sirius XM, YouTube, Rumble, ACLJ.org, the Salem News Channel, which, by the way, now Salem News Channel, if you have Xfinity or one of those things, you can just talk into it, say Salem News Channel, and the app will open. A lot of those are just now getting launched. Great programming over there on that channel. But again, to do that, all of the support, all of the financial backing comes from you. It doesn't come from big sponsors. It doesn't even come, for the most part, from major donors. It comes from you, and we got a second half hour coming up. But this is a great time when we have a 1-minute break here, because we still got to do the station IDs on terrestrial radio to make your donation. We'll be right back. It is not an obsession with choice. This is an obsession with abortion. This is the state of Massachusetts running ads against what they call anti-abortion centers. Of course, we call pro-life pregnancy resource centers. They are there to support women in need. A lot of them provide a lot of care, even diapers, children's clothes, a lot of things for people who are in need. Massachusetts is the first state to do it, but it's certainly what they hope to roll out across the country. So this is coming for your town as well. Fight this taxpayer-funded attack on pro-life pregnancy resource centers.
For 35 years, we've fought for life, religious liberty, and justice, both here and across the globe. You can help secure the next 35.
Help women, help save babies, and really fight back for the values that mean something to you, because they're going to come for your state too.
Support our critical work at aclj.org.
Keeping you informed and engaged, now more than ever. This is Sekulow. And now your host, Logan Sekulow.
Coming up, we actually have an update that came in from our top topic. That, of course, is that the Justice Department has let go of Maurene Comey. That's right, James Comey's daughter and prosecutor for the Epstein trial, as well as the Diddy trials. Someone who is clearly fairly high up in the DOJ, but also that means Pam Bondi's DOJ said, you know what, enough. We don't know specifically why or what happened here, but we now have a statement, a comment that comes directly from Maurene Comey that went out to her team today, I assume, when they said, hey, she probably sent an email out saying I'm no longer working. And, she didn't pull any punches.
That's right. This was being reported by Politico. It was a note to her former colleagues that she sent today, and it says, we have entered a new phase where, quote, without fear may be the challenge, and that's referring to the without fear or favor motto. And then she says, if a career prosecutor can be fired without reason, fear may seep into the decisions of those who remain. Do not let that happen. Fear is the tool of a tyrant, wielded to suppress independent thought. Instead of fear, let this moment fuel the fire that already burns at the heart of this place, a fire of righteous indignation at abuses of power, of commitment to seek justice for victims, of dedicated to truth above all else. And then she also confirmed, Politico says, that she was not provided a reason for her termination, but it was conveyed to her by a memo from the Justice Department. This is really interesting to me, Logan.
She then gave the speech from Independence Day.
Right.
Bill Pullman was out there saying, we will not go quietly. And
I personally, when I first was hearing this story last night, was, okay, I don't know her prosecution record.
Yeah,
I just know her last name. I know a lot of people in our, kind of media sphere have been talking about her, but I didn't really have a decision. But this line that she wrote to her colleagues, and now fear is not a tool of fear is a tool of a tyrant wielded to suppress independent thought. We speak truth, the power, a fire of righteous indignation.
It says it all.
Okay,
we started this show and we said, okay, you know what? You don't blame Maurene Comey for being a Comey. That's not cool. You can't do that. She could be great at her job, could not have anything to do with James Comey. But what's clear is the apple don't fall too tall. When did I say that well?
It doesn't fall too far from the tree, Logan.
It was hard for you to say it too.
I did. Said it. Well, because you already implanted there in my brain
the Appleseed.
Johnny Appleseed.
Johnny Appleseed. He created gravity.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah, 1-800-684-3110. But this is kind of an interesting moment because now you have these, vibrato statements, these big statements saying, it sounds like something out of Braveheart. And I don't care for that. You know what? Go quietly into the night. That's what I say. You know what? Just enjoy you had a job for the time you had. You couldn't convict Diddy. You went too far. Clearly, there's some Epstein problems. Like I said, though, I wish this wasn't the topic of the day. It was either that or talking about Coca-Cola, Will. Which, by the way,
big excited about that.
Big excited.
Will's
big excited about Coca-Cola saying, you know what? No
I'm
more.
Not big mad about it.
They said high fructose corn syrup is fine, but they said we're going to go to natural sugars.
That's right. President Trump put that on Truth.
Mm-hmm.
And, it used to be you'd go to the grocery store and you get the glass bottles.
The Mexican Coke.
Mexican Coke.
Yeah.
Now he's making American Coke great again.
Gulf of American Coke.
Right.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. It's fine. You only can have a Coke heavy every so often, but when you do, what a treat. What a treat it is. All right. Phone lines are open for you at 1-800-684-3110. I want to hear from you. We do have a few lines open for you right now in a second half hour. Coming up next, Rick Grinnell's going to be joining us. We're going to continue talking a little bit about this as well as the New York race for mayor, why it's important to pay attention to, by the way, who the mayor of New York is. By the way, I don't think I can name my mayor, but I can name the mayor of New York and probably can name you the last 10 because of how important it is. Why'd you smirk at me?
I was trying to think if I can. No, I was smirking. Could I name my mayor?
I can think of the Nashville mayor.
Right.
But like my little town suburb mayor, I'd like to know him. Maybe I could be him. I can name the mayor of Laverne. But he's a personal friend. We'll be right back.
Socialist running for New York City mayor is expected to meet with Democratic Party leaders Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries this week after what appears to be a very successful breakfast discussion with Democrats on Capitol Hill yesterday.
If there was any system that could guarantee each person housing, whether you call it the abolition of private property or you call it, just a statewide housing guarantee, it is preferable to what is going on right now.
Seizing the means of production. I mean, these are all straight out of Karl Marx's playbook.
When you think that the government owes you an existence and should own your grocery store and buy your food for you, yeah, that's a major problem. And we've seen that fail in every single country where it's been implemented.
There's three things that a socialist government has to control. They have to control health care, they got to control education, and they got to control your groceries. He is putting the stamp on finishing the socialist program to socialize New York and New York City.
He said that he wants to seize the means of production. That is literally a page out of the communist playbook of Karl Marx. He can identify as a socialist all he wants, but if you're quoting Karl Marx and you want to seize the means of production like they did in Venezuela and in Cuba and the Soviet Union, guess what? You're a communist.
I just listen to policy and I don't like what I hear. It's that simple. I don't have to do business there, Stuart. There's plenty of other places to go. Yep. And that's where I go. And that's what the state needs to understand. Yep. It's a competition.
Never chase capital away.
At the end of the day, the people that suffer are the ones that voted for the communists. It's a system that simply does not work. Everywhere it goes, it creates bankruptcy, despair, crime, suppression, oppression.
The rich who are mobile, they will leave. So the middle class who are less financially mobile, they will be the ones stuck with that bill. And what follows from there, it's pretty ominous.
Welcome back to Sekulow. Rick Grinnell's joining us right now. Rick, I know you're seeing me in the sunglasses. Just disregard. Okay, things happen, okay? Your prescription. But let's move on to the topic of the day. I try to not spend too much time on this, but I see all the sunglasses emojis. I understand, okay? But look, things happen. Rick, I wanted to talk to you about the fact that the New York mayoral candidacy and election is heating up. It is something that has become a national story. And there have been some discussions, and I've seen the comments saying, why do we care about this? And then I sort of reminded our audience, hey, I don't necessarily even know that I can name the last 5 or maybe the current mayor in my suburban town outside of Nashville. But I can tell you the last probably 5 mayors of New York because of New York's global impact. So when you have some of these candidates that are now making their rounds, of course, like Mamdani, making the rounds in Washington, D.C. to court for more money, to court for support, at least we need to be paying attention to what happens in this race.
Well, first of all, if you would have told me that I could wear sunglasses just to look as cool as you right now, I would be wearing sunglasses. You look like comfortably smug. You know that guy?
That's what a lot of people are saying. I look California smug, as they say. No, I'm kidding.
Looking good. Look, I think that what's happening with Mamdani is spilling over into the rest of America right now. And it's spilling over in a very fast way. I just saw today and was trying to go public with the fact that in my home state of California now, we've got Congressman Ro Khanna, who represents Silicon Valley, has endorsed Mamdani. Now you think about this, the political representative of Silicon Valley the most creative part of America, the entrepreneurial spirit in America, is represented by somebody who just endorsed a communist, someone who cannot embrace capitalism. He's said, I'm not a fan of capitalism. I don't understand what's happening across America and specifically in Silicon Valley when Silicon Valley sends a congressman to Washington, D.C., and that congressman is working against capitalism, working for communism. I think they just jumped the shark in Silicon Valley with their representative. This is a red alert. This is something that should not be happening. And I think across America, if your congressman, if your senator, if your mayor is somehow flirting with Mamdani, a person who has been very clear about who he is, to lead the largest city in America, this is a crisis for America. This is like that moment when the Democrats came forward and said, we've got this great idea, we're going to call it sanctuary cities, and we're going to protect people when they break federal law. Conservatives, Republicans, people who are full of common sense should have been screaming immediately when they came up with this concept of sanctuary cities. Well, now the red alert is about the largest city in America cannot be led by somebody who flirts with communism, who says that communism is a better way, who can't defend capitalism. This is America, people. You got to get loud, and you've got to put pressure on your local politicians who are saying nice things about this guy.
Well, and Rick, to that point as well, when you think of the political concept, the Overton window, what's the realm of what's okay to say within politics. And that's kind of how even politicians gauge what issues they can take, if something's on the line, if it's going to be okay. But when you start seeing almost, signal flares or red flags like this mayoral candidate that is very likely going to be the next mayor of New York, unless something completely remarkable happens.
We've seen Cuomo and some of these others, independents, thinking they have a chance in running.
He's almost like that signal, smoke signal going up of saying, okay, can we shift the Overton window further to the left? So this realm of possibilities of what we're allowed to even talk about, you become numb to it. And people on the right, the things that someone like this mayoral candidate is saying should be shocking to the core. But I feel like for many of us, we're hearing it and are almost numb to it of like, that's the left these days. And I think that almost is one of the more dangerous angles of it, not just that he could be the mayor of New York, but that what he's openly championing and what these elected members of Congress are fine associating with is becoming either commonplace on the left or just kind of old news on the right as we hear it.
Well, I think this is you said it better, but this is my point on your local politician endorsing this guy, is that Democrats now have to answer for why they're allowing this guy to run and win, possibly win, in New York City, the largest city in America. Democrats are going to have to answer the question. This guy's in their party. He's a radical, pro-communist, anti-capitalist, and this is a red flag. And good Democrats, common sense Democrats, need to be feeling the pressure from the media and from others to answer why they're allowing this to happen. I think this is a really dangerous moment, and we all need to unite to defeat this.
Rick, I try not to ask you about Gavin Newsom every time that you're on here, but he's just making it so hard not to talk about him. But I see these as parallel stories because while you have the mayoral candidate in New York who's running and openly saying these ideas, you have someone like Gavin Newsom who is going on conservative podcasts like the Sean Ryan Show and trying to talk, going to South Carolina, coming to Nashville, trying to talk to an audience
we just missed him.
that are conservative, that maybe are more centrist, and he's trying to make himself seem like this rational guy, talking about on Mother's Day going skeet shooting. He's not anti-gun, things of this nature, trying to make himself an attractive candidate, obviously, for the next presidential election cycle. And you hear ideas like what's coming out of New York with private property rights, Gavin Newsom tries to be like, no. I believe in these things. I believe in capitalism. I'm a, just a normal Democrat. But you also see that he lied to the people of California about the fire areas where the destroyed property, he said, would not be redeveloped into low-income housing. And now they're doing just that thing with a new proposal in California, which would kind of upset the order of how those areas even were.
Well, look, there's a lot of competition between the East Coast and the West Coast, whether it's music or sports. And now Gavin Newsom has a little run for his money with Mamdani. Gavin Newsom is the West Coast Mamdani. He is somebody who's tried to do exactly what Mamdani is doing in many ways. He's the godfather of sanctuary cities. He's the godfather of woke. He's the godfather of shutting down our beaches. And I think what Californians have realized is that, we can't have this. I mean, they've reached their limit. We've gone over the cliff. And so what I would say is that while you see California rising up and really rejecting Gavin Newsom feels the pressure, and he's leaving California to now go run for president. He's going to try to do the same con job that he did to Californians early on. He's going to try to do that to swing state voters. And I just don't see swing state voters going for Gavin Newsom. I hope he runs because I think he gets defeated. But something else I would be remiss if I didn't bring up that's happening in California. Thanks to State Assemblyman Carl DeMaio, we now have voter ID in California on the ballot. Well, I should say, back up, not quite on the ballot. We are seeking signatures to get it on the ballot. But I gotta believe that it's going to be on the ballot because people are so excited about this. But if you're from California, you need to immediately sign and get your friends to sign to put this on the ballot for voter ID. And that would be remarkable because it would win in California. We could switch the state of California into requiring IDs in order to vote, something that 70 to 80% of the people believe in, but it's not enacted in California. But we're going to do it. And so I would push people to go sign this petition so that we can get this on the ballot and really change the way we do elections, because you would have to have a voter ID, approved government ID, in order to vote, and that would be groundbreaking for California.
Democrats wouldn't have any problem with that in California, clearly. I think it's going to win. Nice.
But Rick,
nice and easy.
Look, I mean, we have all the media up in our offices, and right now even Fox is talking about sort of the homeless crisis that is happening still in LA. We only have a minute left here. But when you have reports that 70,000 people in the LA area are homeless, you would think that the people would go, okay, we have gone too far here. And I'm hopeful for you and for your state that they can see through it.
Well, I hope so too. I mean, we're giving billions of dollars to illegal immigrants for healthcare. We're attracting illegal immigrants. We're attracting the country's homeless population because we're just giving out benefits and allowing them to camp out on people's stoop. It's chaos, and Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass are responsible.
Thank you, Rick, for joining us. We always appreciate it. Look, phone lines are open for you. We try to take as many calls as we can. We got a few lines open at 1-800-684-3110. So if you're watching on social media or YouTube or Rumble, give us a call. It's always great to hear from you as well on any of the topics that we discussed today or all week. And, of course, you can support the work of the ACLJ during our 35-year drive right now. All donations are doubled.
The Justice Department has fired former FBI Director James Comey's daughter, who was a prosecutor on several high-profile cases, including Jeffrey Epstein and Sean Diddy Combs. Maurene Comey was an assistant U.S. attorney in the U.S. Southern District of New York. Recently, she was part of the team prosecuting Combs and led the sex trafficking case against Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell.
Whatever there is in the Epstein files, Maurene Comey knows. She brought the prosecution of Jeffrey Epstein in 2019 during the first Trump term, and it was just a month after that that Epstein hung himself in his cell room, and she was the one of the lead prosecutors on that case.
This firing also comes as the Trump administration investigates Maurene's father, James Comey, and former CIA Director John Brennan, accusing them of lying to Congress during the probe into Trump's alleged 2016 Russia ties.
The U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York cited Article 2 of the Constitution, which establishes the executive power of the president.
Why fire her now?
Can we talk about Maurene Comey for a second? Maurene Comey was for 10 years an extremely successful, dedicated, and ethical assistant U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York. She was a high-ranking person in that office. She became the head of the Public Integrity Unit. She supervised the case against Robert Menendez, the corrupt senator. She tried Ghislaine Maxwell. She tried P. Diddy. The idea that she got fired is a disgrace to the Justice Department. And Jay Clayton, supposedly the U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York, ought to resign himself in disgrace because he allowed this to go on.
Comey's daughter out, Pam Bondi, says, we don't need your services anymore.
Well, it's about time. She hasn't really done that good of a job. And at the end of the day, President Trump wants results from every part of the administration, including the Department of Justice.
Welcome back to Sekulow. We do want to hear from you. And look, I'll be honest, we have 3 or 4 lines open right now. Some phone lines are ringing, but we'll get through them. 1-800-684-3110. I want to jump first to an ACLJ champion who's been on hold for a little while. But again, if you're an ACLJ champion, you get bumped to the front of the line. But right now, you're also the one who's been holding the longest because we haven't taken any calls today. Let's go to Linda in New York on line 2. Linda, you're on the air.
Hi there. Thank you for taking my call. Love what you do, and I love your unbiased reporting on everything that's going on. The reason I am calling is because I do believe that there may not have been a formal list. I think in today's day and age, everybody knows that lists can be unearthed, and I wouldn't be surprised if Epstein had these parties and knew the other pedophiles, or the pedophiles in the party knew he had it, and if it was just more of a nod to go upstairs or whatever else. But what I
go ahead.
What I am confused about is why Ghislaine Maxwell was arrested, like where the evidence was for that, because I thought her role in this was to find girls. So I just need a little clarification.
Well, that's not great either. But Linda, we'll discuss that second part, the Ghislaine part here coming up. Will, I know, has a lot more information on that. In terms of the list, I don't necessarily disagree with you. These are people who are running at such a high level. They understand security, privacy, all of that definitely existed. Now, does that mean a list could not be compiled and you could not find the evidence of who was there, what they were doing, all of those things? I don't necessarily believe that. But when you're talking about, was there like a black book, a traditional, what you think of as a list? No, and I think that's too simplistic, but it's how sometimes the American people want to believe things are. It's like the JFK files. You wanted the JFK files to be released, but then when they were released, you were like, this is not what we're looking for. We were looking for a one paragraph that said, here's who actually did it. That doesn't exist because that's not the way our government runs. If anything, it's extreme paperwork. But Will, in terms of the reasons that Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine are in prison or were in prison, obviously he is dead, but that is because of things, the laws that were broken.
That's right, and we're not going to.
Sentence isn't crazy, right? Your sentence
it's
like 20 years.
20 years. We're not going to get into obviously the details of it, but I mean, he had a sweetheart deal that was cut with prosecutors in Florida, 20 years ago, and that in and of itself was based off crimes because once again, won't get into details, but he was committing crimes himself against minors, and she was convicted with trafficking charges of transporting and trafficking minors. So she committed crimes. Now, they were targeted at her for procuring and enabling and facilitating crimes that he would commit. So she broke crimes and was prosecuted and found guilty and is serving time for that. So that is not in question at all.
I want to jump to another call. Linda, thank you for calling, and thank you for being a champion. Know how much that means to us. We have a call coming in. Look, it's okay to hear from people who disagree with us or on the other side. Let's go to Susan in Florida, who is watching on Facebook. Go ahead, Susan.
Hi, yes. My comment is that I guess I strongly disagree with the conclusions you guys are coming up with. I feel that Epstein was just part of a huger problem, and I don't know if that's deep state or not, but when you get rid of one mafia person, it's not like another mafia person isn't going to fill those shoes. There's going to be more victims. And I really lost respect for Trump, and I'm getting a lot of flack online for it here, based on that doesn't mean I don't agree and I want things done on the border and things like that. But this is a huge problem. There were promises made not only by Vance and Trump and Bongino that we were going to get to the bottom of this. There are real victims, young girls being victimized.
Yeah,
and
Susan,
if we don't stand up for them, nobody will.
I want to make things very, very clear, Susan, is that I don't feel like we are covering or making excuses for anyone in that sense. I think this was a huge blunder. I think what they ran on, you are 100% right. They ran on this being fully disclosed and for us to find out the information, to then pretend that it doesn't happen or it doesn't exist, or to run on it and then find out it doesn't exist. You need to do a much better job in your rollout as the Department of Justice and as the FBI and as the President of the United States in doing so, because you have lost a lot of trust from a lot of people.
I think here's the other angle on this too as well, Susan. President Trump told Just the News with John Solomon, who we had on the broadcast earlier this week, that he's open to a special prosecutor or special counsel to investigate all this. That would have a much broader mandate to look into other people, because it wouldn't just be trying to get a conviction against Jeffrey Epstein or against Ghislaine Maxwell. So if that were to happen, then they would have a budget. They would be able to chase down leads and see if there is a broader conspiracy to uncover. Here's the big question, though, for the listeners and for everyone. If a special counsel is appointed and doesn't find what you think is there, will you accept that? Is there any realm of even just a little bit more, or other people found out that it was a little bit broader, but there you can never find because there isn't evidence of, or the evidence is destroyed, of this broader conspiracy with other named high-profile individuals? Would that be sufficient? And that's, I think, one of the bigger problems, and maybe why there is frustration from President Trump. If the FBI didn't have that because that's not what they were prosecuting, or it was deleted, or whatever reason, and so he can't release something they don't have, what would it take to get you to either accept what is the end game, unless it is 100%? This is a list, and you have it, and these people are prosecuted if it doesn't exist in that way.
We only got a couple minutes. I want to try to get to the other calls. Let's go to Ann in Pennsylvania real quick. Ann, you're on the air also on Facebook.
Guys, thank you. Love you guys so much. Yeah, I don't blame Trump. I just think he's being misguided. I think that there's certain people speaking in his ears, not saying the right things. There's absolutely a list. We told there was a list for years. This is why he was actually set to go to trial, Epstein. He was indicted. And this is why that what's-her-name is in prison, because there is a list. Now, the victims are what matters. There's more to the picture than there's more.
I am only cutting you off because we got 2 minutes left, and I want to try to get to the other call. Let's take Kathy's call, and then maybe we can try to wrap up with your comments here. Kathy, Kentucky, go ahead. Last call of the day.
Hello. I'm just wondering about the constitutionality of a lot of things that have happened during the Biden administration. I'm wondering about the constitutionality of the mayoral candidate running as
Kathy,
a communist.
I'm cutting you off because we only got a minute left here. Look, I mean, there's a lot of issues that came up during the Biden administration. We're not just going to go and take them. That's what happened today, even with the Army. We know that the issues that were going on, and we know that they did not give us a sufficient response. And now we have what I feel like is a very sufficient response from the Secretary of the Army in support of pro-life groups, and really deeply apologizing. Of course, we're going to stay on that. We're going to make sure that's not the end of the case. We'll make sure that's not the last they hear from us, because we want to make sure they actually do what they say they're going to do. But thankfully, you have a new administration in charge. Will they take down a lot of what's been going on in the Biden administration? What happened? I think we're seeing that already. We've seen a lot of growth in there. Do I think certain things? We have to keep our attention on the right things, of course. But look, I appreciate everyone who called in. I appreciate everyone who called in and became an ACLJ champion today. I appreciate everyone that called in who even commented on our sunglasses. It's okay. You know what? Will decided to troll me here at the end, but that's all right.
These are actually Bobo Hogan sunglasses. For everyone out there, our favorite clown, Bobo Hogan, he let me borrow them for the segment.
I don't feel like those are Bobo enough, but it's okay. Listen, I want you to have your gifts doubled today. It's at aclj.org/35. It's 35 years of justice, everybody. You've heard about all the incredible work that we've been doing here. I didn't even get to list all of them. We're talking about going after some HOAs, which I know you like. Because no one really seems to like their HOA, and I was a former vice president of HOA. I like my own HOA, but I see the comments. Okay? So you know what? We'll support you too. ACLJ.org. Be a part of it today.